Valparaíso is a major city, seaport, and educational center in the county commune of Valparaíso, Chile. Greater Valparaíso is the second largest metropolitan area in the country. Valparaíso is located 111.8 kilometers northwest of Santiago and is one of the South Pacific's most important seaports. Valparaíso is the capital of Chile's third most populated administrative region and has been the headquarters for the Chilean National Congress. Since 1990, Valparaíso played an important geopolitical role in the second half of the 19th century, when the city served as a major stopover for ships traveling between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans by crossing the Straits of Magellan. Valparaíso mushroomed during its golden age as a magnet for European immigrants, when the city was known by international sailors as Little San Francisco and the Jewel of the Pacific. In 2003, the historic quarter of Valparaíso was declared a United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization World Heritage Site. Examples of Valparaíso's renowned glory include Latin America's oldest stock exchange, the continent's first volunteer fire department, Chile's first public library, and the oldest Spanish-language newspaper in continuous publication in the world, El Mercurio de Valparaíso. The second half of the 20th century was not kind to Valparaíso, as many wealthy families abandoned the city. The opening of the Panama Canal and reduction in ship traffic dealt a staggering blow to Valparaíso's port-based economy. However, over the past 15 years, the city has staged an impressive renaissance, attracting many artists and cultural entrepreneurs who have set up shop in the city's hillside historic districts. Today, many thousands of tourists visit Valparaíso from around the world to marvel at the city's unique labyrinth of cobbled alleys and colorful buildings. The port of Valparaíso continues to be a major distribution center for container traffic, copper, and fruit exports. Valparaíso also receives growing attention from cruise ships that visit during the South American summer. Most significantly, Valparaíso has transformed itself into a major educational center with 4 large traditional universities and several large vocational colleges. The city exemplifies Chilean culture, with festivals every year, and a number of street artists and musicians. History. Valparaíso's bay was probably first populated by the Picunche natives, known for their agriculture, or the Chango people, who were nomads dedicated to fishing, and traveling between modern-day Caldera and Concepcion. Spanish explorers, considered the first European discoverers of Chile, arrived in 1536 aboard the Santiaguillo, a supply ship sent by Diego de Almagro. The Santiaguillo carried men and supplies for Almagro's expedition, under the command of Juan de Saavedra, who named the town after his native village of Valparaíso de Uraba in Cuenca, Spain. During Spanish colonial times, Valparaíso remained a small village, with only a few houses and a church. In 1810, a wealthy merchant built the first pier in the history of Chile and the first during the colonial era. In its place today, stands the building of El Mercurio de Valparaíso. The ocean then rose to this point. Reclamation of land from the sea moved the coastline 5 blocks away. Between 1810 and 1830 he built much of the existing port of the city, including much of the land reclamation work that now provides the city's commercial center. After Chile's independence from Spain, beginning the Republican era, Valparaíso became the main harbor for the nascent Chilean Navy, and opened international trade opportunities that had been formerly limited to Spain and its other colonies. Valparaíso soon became a desired stopover for ships rounding South America via the Strait Straits of Magellan and Cape Horn. It gained particular importance supporting and supplying the California gold rush. As a major seaport, Valparaiso received immigrants from many European countries, mainly from Britain, Germany, France, Switzerland and Italy. German, French, Italian and English were commonly spoken among its citizens, who founded and published newspapers in these languages. International immigration transformed the local culture from Spanish origins and Amerindian origins, in ways that included the construction of the first non-Catholic cemetery of Chile, the Cemetery of Dissidents. Football was introduced to Chile by English immigrants, and the first private Catholic school in Chile. French immigrants in Valparaiso, which has been operating for about 170 years. Immigrants from Scotland and Germany founded the first private secular schools. Immigrants formed the first volunteer firefighting units. The buildings reflected a variety of European styles, making Valparaiso more varied than some other Chilean cities. In August 18, 1906, a major earthquake struck Valparaiso. There was extensive property damage and thousands of deaths. The Chilean doctor Carlos Van Buren, of U.S. descent, was involved in medical care of earthquake victims. He later established a modern hospital, Carlos Van Buren Hospital, in 1912. The golden age of Valparaiso's commerce ended after the opening of the Panama Canal. Shipping shifted to the canal as captains sought to avoid the risks of the Strait of Magellan. The port's use and traffic declined significantly, causing a decline in the city's economy. Since the turn of the 21st century, shipping has increased in the last few decades, with fruit exports, increasing opening of the Chilean economy to world commerce, and larger-scale, post-Panamax ships that do not fit the Panama Canal. 19th century. On March 28, 1814, the Sussex is defeated by British frigates Phoebe and Cherub during the War of 1812, leading to the deaths of 58 U.S. Marines. By August 2, 1820, the liberating expedition of Peru sails from Valparaiso. At 10:30 on the evening of November 19, 1822, Valparaiso experienced occurs a violent earthquake that leaves the city in ruins. Of the 16,000 residents, casualties included at least 66 adults and 12 children, as well as 110 people wounded. The next day, a meteor trail was visible from Quillota to Valparaiso, seen as a religious experience for much of the population. In 1826, the Royal Navy Great Britain establishes a South America station in Valparaiso to maintain British naval interest in the region. It would remain until 1837, when it was relocated to Esquimalt, British Columbia. September 12, 1827 saw the establishment of El Mercurio de Valparaiso, currently the oldest circulating newspaper in the Spanish language worldwide. In May 1828, a constitutional convention begins regular meeting in the Church of San Francisco. By August 9, the Constitution of the Republic of Chile would be fully drafted and disseminated. On June 6, 1837, Minister Diego Portales is shot at the port outside of Barron Hill on suspicion of promoting conspirators who opposed the Peru-Bolivian Confederation, considered a turning point of Chilean public opinion and the purpose of the war. By 1851, the first fire brigade in the country is formed. The next year, potable running water becomes available, as well as the first telegraph service in Latin America, between the city and Santiago. It would be another 4 years before streetlights with 700 gas lanterns are installed. In 1861, the first tram company is formed, mostly using horse or mules to draw them, and fully established over the next few years. Taking advantage of the total lack of defenses, a Spanish fleet commanded by Castro Mende Núñez bombarded the city during the Spanish-South American War in 1866. Chilean merchant ships are sunk, except for those vessels whose captains hoisted foreign flags. A merger of the National Steamship Company and Chilean Steamship Company. The South American Steamship Company was created as a national response to the increasing dominance of the Pacific Steam Navigation Company in 1872. In 1880, the Chilean Telephone Company is formed by Americans Joseph Husbands, Peter McKellar, James Martin, and the U.S. Consul Lucius Foote, the first official telephone company in the country. 3 years later, on the 1st of December, Concepcion Funicular opens, the first of many hydraulic systems. After the country's independence and its consequent openness to international trade, Valparaiso becomes an important port of call on trade routes through the eastern Pacific. Many immigrants settled there, mostly from Europe and North America, who helped include Valparaiso and Chile in the Industrial Revolution, sweeping other parts of the world. This created a different city with civil, financial, commercial and industrial institutions, many of which still exist today. All this resulted in a population increases. The city reached more than 160,000 inhabitants in the late 19th century, making it necessary to use the steep hills for more houses, mansions and even cemeteries. The lack of available land caused the city authorities and developers to reclaim low-lying tidal marshland to build administrative, commercial and industrial infrastructure. 20th century began with the first big protest of dock workers, Chile, on April 15, 1903. Due to complaints by dockers about their excessive working hours and demands for higher wages, requests that were ignored by employers, creating a tense situation that led to serious violence on May 12. There were protests and a burning of the CSAV offices, and several people were shot and killed. All this prompted intervention by the state. This protest was important for the future of trade unionism in the country. The same year, electric trams appeared. The 1906 Valparaiso earthquake caused severe damage throughout the city on August 16, which was at the time the heart of the Chilean economy. Damage was valued at hundreds of millions of pesos at the time, and human victims were counted at 3,000 dead and over 20,000 injured. After removing the debris, reconstruction work began. These included the widening of streets, culverting and covering streams. The main street of the city was laid and Plaza O'Higgins was created. A hill was removed to allow the passage of Colon Street. The damaged Edwards Mansion was demolished, and in its place the present Cathedral of Valparaiso was built, and, among many other works, this gave shape to the current Almendral Valparaiso area. In 1910, the port expansion work of the city, which ended in 1930, began. A long breakwater was built, along with piers and docking terminals. The opening of the Panama Canal in 1914 caused a severe reduction of port activity, as Valparaiso lost its vital role as the major stopping point for shipping going from the North Atlantic to the North Pacific via the Magellan Channel. 21st century. Currently, Chile's legislature, along with other institutions of national importance like the National Customs Service, the National Fish and Aquaculture Ministry, the Ministry of Culture and the Barracks General of the Chilean Navy, are sited in the city. In addition to the capital of the Valparaiso region hosts the regional administration and government. In February 2013, about 105 homes were destroyed in Valparaiso, affecting 1,200 people. On April 13, 2014, a huge brush fire burned out of control, destroying 2,800 homes and killing 16 people, forcing President Michelle Bachelet to declare it a disaster zone. Geography. Valparaiso is located in central Chile, 120 kilometers to the northwest of the capital Santiago. Valparaiso, like most of Chile, is vulnerable to earthquakes. Before the earthquake of February 27, 2010, which measured 8.8 on the moment magnitude scale, the last catastrophic earthquake to strike Valparaiso devastated the city in August 1906, killing nearly 3,000 people. Other significant earthquakes to affect the city were the 1730 Valparaiso earthquake and the 1985 Algarrobo earthquake. Geology. Because of Valparaiso's proximity to the Peru-Chile Trench, the city is vulnerable to earthquakes. The Peru-Chile Trench stores large amounts of energy for a very long time and sometimes ruptures after short intervals in a violent earthquake. Climate. Valparaiso has a very mild Mediterranean climate closely resembling that of San Francisco or Santa Barbara at a similar latitude in the northern hemisphere. The summer is essentially dry, but the city is affected by fogs from the Humboldt Current during most of the year. In the winter, rainfall can occasionally be extremely heavy when a powerful frontal system crosses central Chile, but frequency of such rains varies greatly from year to year. Snowfall occurs rarely in the highest parts of the city. In winter, strong winds can make the thermal sensation drop below the freezing point. Cityscape. Nicknamed the Jewel of the Pacific, Valparaiso was declared a World Heritage Site based upon its improvised urban design and unique architecture. In 1996, the World Monuments Fund declared Valparaiso's unusual system of funicular lifts one of the world's 100 most endangered historical treasures. In 1998, grassroots activists convinced the Chilean government and local authorities to apply for UNESCO World Heritage status for Valparaiso. Valparaiso was declared a World Heritage Site in 2003. Built upon dozens of steep hillsides overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Valparaiso boasts a labyrinth of streets and cobblestone alleyways embodying a rich architectural and cultural legacy. Valparaiso is protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Landmarks include Iglesia de la Matriz, Plaza Aníbal Pinto, Plaza Sotomayor, Courthouse, 16 remaining funiculars, 15 public and 1 private. The Concepcion and Alegre Historical District. The Bella Vista Hill, which has the Museo a Cielo Abierto, or Open Sky Museum. Monument to Admiral Lord Thomas Alexander Cochrane, 10th Earl of Dundonald. Monument to Manuel Blanco Encalada, first Chilean president. Cemeteries on the hill. Cemetery No. 1 and Dissidents Cemetery. Gallery. Demographics. Although technically only Chile's sixth largest city, with an urban area population of 263,499, the Greater Valparaíso metropolitan area, including the neighboring cities of Vina del Mar, Rincón, Quilpué and Villa Alemana, is the second largest in the country, according to the 2002 census of the National Statistics Institute. The commune of Valparaíso spans an area of 401.6 square kilometers and has 275,982 inhabitants. Of these, 275,141 lived in urban areas and 841 in rural areas. The population fell by 2.4% between the 1992 and 2002 censuses. Residents of Valparaiso are commonly called porteños. Government. As a commune, Valparaiso is a third-level administrative division of Chile administered by a municipal council, headed by an alcalde who is directly elected every 4 years. The 2008 to 2012 alcalde is Jorge Castro Munoz. The council has the following members. Within the electoral divisions of Chile, Valparaiso is represented in the Chamber of Deputies by Joaquin Godoy and Mr. Aldo Cornejo as part of the 13th electoral district. The commune is represented in the Senate by Francisco Chuan and Ricardo Lagos Weber as part of the 6th senatorial constituency. Economy. Major industries include tourism, culture, shipping and freight transport. Approximately 50 international cruise ships call on Valparaiso during the 4-month Chilean summer. The port of Valparaiso is also an important hub for container freight and exports many products, including wine, copper, and fresh fruit. Commerce. There are 2 large shopping centers and various other major retail development. Portal Valparaiso, Harbor Station Mall, Barron Square, Kenrick Mall, Access Avenida Pedro Montt, Access Avenida Uruguay, Access Avenida Condral. Port of Valparaiso. The Port of Valparaiso is divided into 10 sites, which sites 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are administered by South Pacific Terminal SAR, and sites 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 for Valparaiso Port Company. The last 2 sites include a dock and are used as public walks and cruise passenger terminal. Valparaiso is the main container and passenger port in Chile, transferring 10 million tons annually, and serves about 50 cruises and 150,000 passengers. Transport. A rapid transit light rail system, the Valparaiso Metro, opened to the public on the 24th of November 2005. The creation of this system involved updating parts of the direct railway line, originally built in 1863, that once linked Santiago and Valparaiso, and the cities in between. The Valparaiso Metro now connects the city core of Valparaiso with Vina del Mar and other cities. The metro constitutes the so-called 4th stage of metropolitan improvements. The metro railway extends along most of Gran Valparaiso, and is the 2nd subway system in operation in Chile, as it includes an underground section that crosses Vina del Mar's commercial district. Public transport within Valparaiso itself is provided primarily by buses, trolleybuses and funiculars. The buses provide an efficient and regular service to and from the city centre and the numerous hills where most people live, as well as to neighboring towns, while more distant towns are served by long-distance coaches. Buses are operated by several private companies and regulated by the Regional Ministry of Transport, which controls fares and routes. The Valparaiso trolleybus system has been in operation since 1952, and in 2015 it continues to use some of its original vehicles, built in 1952 by the Pullman Standard Company, along with an assortment of other vehicles acquired later. Some of Valparaiso's Pullman trolleybuses are even older, built in 1946 to 48, having been acquired second-hand from Santiago in the 1970s. The surviving Pullman trolleybuses are the oldest trolleybuses still in normal service anywhere in the world, and they were collectively declared National Historic Monuments by the Chilean government in 2003. Valparaiso's road infrastructure has been undergoing substantial improvement. particularly with the completion of the Curamá-Placilla-La Pólvora freeway bypass, which will allow trucks to go directly to the port facility over a modern highway and through tunnels, without driving through the historic and already congested downtown streets. In addition, roads to link Valparaiso to San Antonio, Chile's second-largest port, and the coastal towns in between, are also under various degrees of completion. Travel between Valparaiso and Santiago currently takes about 80 minutes via a modern toll highway. Internal passenger air services to Valparaiso are provided through the airport at Quintero, which is some distance from the city but now served by good roads. The great majority of foreign visitors arrive through Santiago or on cruise liners. Funicular railway. Because the slopes of the hills, many of the surrounding areas of Valparaiso are inaccessible by public transport. That is why elevators serve the function of communicating the high part of the city with the plan, besides being strong holiday highlight. The only elevator that can truly be called as such is the Ascensor Polanco, because it is vertical. Meanwhile, the rest are cable cars but traditionally called elevators. Several of those funiculars, locally called ascensors, provide public transport service between the central area and the lower slopes of the surrounding hills, the first of which opened in 1883 and is operated by steam, still in service. The Cerro Cordillera elevator was built in 1887. As many as 28 different funicular railways have served Valparaiso at one time or another, of which 14 were still in operation in 1992 and still around 12 in 2010. Valparaiso has currently 15 lifts declared historical monuments by the National Monuments Council. 5 are municipal property and the remaining belong to 4 private companies. The elevators are Elevators Municipal Bayron, El Peril, Polanco, Queen Victoria and St. Augustine. As for the rest, lifts Florida, Butterflies and Nuns are owned by the National Elevator Company. Sar Artillery, Concepcion and Mountains belong to the Society of Mechanical Lifts. Valparaiso Holy Spirit, Laraine and Villaseca are the property of Valparaiso Elevators Company. Sar and Dairy belongs to the Society of Dairy Cerro Lifts Limited. Culture. During Valparaiso's golden age, the city received large numbers of immigrants, primarily from Europe. The immigrant communities left a unique imprint on the city's noteworthy architecture. Each community built its own churches and schools, while many also founded other noteworthy cultural and economic institutions. The largest immigrant communities came from Britain, Germany, and Italy, each developing their own hillside neighborhood, preserved today as National Historic Districts or Zonas Típicas. During the second half of the 20th century, Valparaiso experienced a great decline, as wealthy families gentrified the historic quarter, moving to bustling Santiago and nearby Vina del Mar. By the early 1990s, much of the city's unique heritage had been lost and many Chileans had given up on the city. But in the mid-1990s, a grassroots preservation movement blossomed in Valparaiso, where nowadays also a vast number of murals created by graffiti artists can be viewed on the streets, alleyways and stairways. The Fundación Valparaiso, founded by the North American poet Todd Temkin, has executed major neighborhood redevelopment projects, has improved the city's tourist infrastructure, and administers the city's jazz, ethnic music, and opera festivals, among other projects. Some noteworthy foundation projects include the World Heritage Trail, Opera by the Sea, and Chile's cultural capital. During recent years, Mr. Temkin has used his influential Sunday column in El Mercurio de Valparaíso to advocate for many major policy issues, such as the creation of a Ley Valparaíso in the Chilean Congress, and the possibility that the Chilean government must guarantee funding for the preservation of Valparaíso's beloved funicular elevators. Valparaíso's newspaper, El Mercurio de Valparaíso, is the oldest Spanish-language newspaper in circulation in the world. The Fundación Lucas maintains the drawings and paintings of the cartoonist Renzo Antonio Giovanni Peccenino Raggi, who came to symbolize Valparaíso in popular culture in a new restored building overlooking the bay. Valparaíso is also home to the so-called School of Valparaíso, which is in fact the Faculty of Architecture and Urbanism of the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Valparaíso. The School of Valparaíso was in the 1960s and 1970s one of the most experimental, avant-garde and controversial architectural schools in the country. Valparaíso stages a major festival attended by hundreds of thousands of participants on the last 3 days of every year. The festival culminates with a New Year's by the Sea fireworks show, the biggest in all of Latin America, attended by 1 million tourists who fill the coastline and hillsides with a view of the bay. Even though everyone calls it the Valparaíso fireworks, it is in fact a fireworks display running along a great part of the coast from Valparaíso, past Vina del Mar and all the way to Quincón. The Chilean Congress meets in a modern building in the Almendral section of Valparaíso, after relocation from Santiago during the last years of the dictatorship of General Augusto Pinochet. Although congressional activities were to be legally moved by a ruling in 1987, the newly built site only began to function as the seat of Congress during the government of Patricio Aylwin in 1990. In 2003, the Chilean Congress declared Valparaíso to be Chile's cultural capital and home for the nation's new cultural ministry. Valparaíso offers various urban nightlife activities. Traditional bars and nightclubs can be found near Plaza Sotomayor. A vivid guide to Valparaíso can be found in the novels of Cayetano Brul, the private detective who lives in a Victorian house in the picturesque Paseo Gervasoni in Cerro Concepcion. Health system. The public healthcare system mainly relies on the Hospital Carlos Van Buren located at the Planet Hospital Valparaíso located at St. Roque Hill. There are also several clinics like Universidad de Chile's Clínica Barrion Hospital Aylman and the former Naval Hospital on Playa Ancha Hill.